Good morning, everyone. Today is another episode of Arks Trash, which is my podcast, so it will be audio only. However, I have prepared some B-roll for my visual listeners out there, so if you want to see the behind the scenes of me struggling against Dark Falls, feel free to watch the footage. Now, today's special guest is Thriftshoppin. I know a lot of you guys probably know who he is already. If you guys don't know, well, he is a streamer on Twitch. He streams a lot of PSO2 content, and he also makes some really amazing guides, such as the Deafness Farm, the Veteran Farms, as well as, of course, the Gold Box Farm, which I'm sure a lot of you guys are using in order to get your Blizzardium. But before we jump into the podcast, if you're new to the channel, I upload NGS content daily, so if you do play this game, I would really appreciate a subscribe, as it really helps out the channel. Anyway, without further ado, let's begin the video. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Arks Trash. Today, we have special guest Thriftshoppin with us. Thrift, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, what's up, everybody? Thriftshoppin here. I stream on Twitch 5 days a week and have my YouTube channel as well. Keroppi will probably throw links down below too, so you can go check them out.
Perfect. All right, so Thrift, we're just going to jump straight into it because I'm sure most people know who you are already. But the Kvaris update has been out. It's been 3 weeks. We've had the Dark Falls, the Ancients, as well as the new area and everything. But what's your overall impression?
Yeah, I've been through. I think a lot of us have been through like peaks and valleys with this content. On first impression, by far the most gorgeous region that we've had. I think the snow atmosphere is beautiful. I think the storm with the bits and pieces of snow flurrying around is great. I think the monsters are really fun. Even though we have a lot of similar monsters we've seen in the past, it really does feel like they've been fleshed out a little bit more with unique skills. For example, with like Rook and the Snow Rook, like the ice themed attacks. And then even for my favorite monster, Daedals, they have the Frostal. And even though some of the attacks are similar, there are a lot of winter and ice themed attacks that just kind of make sense in the region. And so on first impression, I was pretty bummed out we had the same content cycle. It was the, you go clear veterans and you go do purple triggers, and that was kind of what it was. But as I've taken a step back and kind of lowered my expectations, I've come to appreciate the effort that the development team put into some of those small features to just make the region feel, I guess, more accurate or more representable to what it is. So I've enjoyed it. I do wish that we get, some more tough content, and we did get some in the most recent update this last week. So, yeah, I all in all, I'm coming around to really appreciating it and just trying to take it week by week and just enjoy the game with others that are still playing.
All right. Yeah, that's a good answer, but I'm going to throw you into the deep end or the hot seat. And if you were to give it a score out of 10, what score would you give it?
Yeah, okay. I would probably give it like a 6 or a 7, to be honest. I wouldn't give it a really high score. I still think that the concerns that we have had as a community are still there and they're still prevalent. So I can't rate it too high for that reason. We dealt with Retem, and we hoped that surveys and community feedback would result in some solutions in Retem. And, some things change. Like I said, the monsters and the boss fights, they feel fun, but that content cycle is still there. And it's becoming a much bigger issue than it previously was now. A lot of people we're really relying on Kvaris being that update to really change things. And since it's not, now you're looking 6 months down the road again. And so for a lot of players, it's like the writing is on the wall for them. So I'd give it like a 6 or a 7. Aesthetic wise, beautiful as always. I do think that they did a really good job with some of the class skills. I don't know if I would call them class skills as much as like rebalancing, but man, it just, when that first couple days, you could ask anybody playing their class, and most of the classes really felt like they got a really good revamp. And so that was really nice and comforting to see that a lot of these classes felt like they had a new way to play or just new opportunities. I know for Partisan, we had some. I've been on the Talus bandwagon. I just love Talus now. So like, it's really that class rebalancing with some of those skills and the additions of them have been really amazing, I think, for the game. I think they hit that out of the park with changing some of those skills.
Yeah, I personally give this update an 8 out of 10, but it's mainly because of what you said, the revamping of the classes. Because as a Braver main, Braver, they just smashed it out of the park. You know, I ranked Braver as like a D tier in the ranking list when Braver first came out. And then in this update, it got bumped up to an S tier. It feels like a Scion class. It literally feels like a Luster type of class. If you ever give it a chance, I do recommend trying the Braver in NGS. It literally feels like a Scion class. It's really, really good. But, you know, you said that you're switching to Talus, or you played Talus. Are you still playing Partisan though? Or like, what are the changes for your classes that you play?
Yeah, okay, so first off, I will have to try Braver again. I tried it a little bit when they were getting some updates, but you know, it's great to see that NGS has been able to figure out what was missing with a class and get it ramped up to where it needs to be. That gives me hope for some other classes, because there are some that really need help. So I'm glad for all the Braver mains out there. We need to switch some attention to some other classes. But yeah, Bravers are, you know, great class, like incredible class. And you honestly kind of need Braver to be that good. It's one of the most popular classes. And when it first came out and through all of Alio and even into a little bit of Retem, it never felt right. And I can only imagine how many people tried that class at first and went, oh, this doesn't feel right, and probably dropped off the game, didn't really want to restart. And so it's good for Braver to be really good. But on to what I've been playing. I still play Partisan. I decided to take a little bit of break when I first got into Kvaris, just because I wasn't too enthused with just getting a normal attack. Going back to the skills, a lot of classes got good ones. I felt like Partisan, all we got was that 4th normal. It's a really long delay. I didn't really vibe with it right away. So I decided, instead of just being negative Nancy, I decided let's just switch over to something different. I saw that Talus got a lot of buffs, and so I gave that a shot and just fell in love with it. They didn't change anything with like how Talus plays aside from PP regeneration, which is an important aspect of Talus, and it just feels great. You're just a little machine gun, and you have easy rotations, and it's pretty chill. So for streaming, it's like the best class. I can attack and look over at stream and not have to worry. And so I was almost ready to go all in on Talus. I was going to go get a Rocks Talus. I was going to upgrade my gear. I was going to go full-blown technique. And then while we were clearing some veterans, somebody asked, hey, why don't you try Partisan? And like, the second I flipped to Partisan and just play a little bit, it's in my opinion, some of the best combat. And all it took was like 2 minutes of playing Partisan for me to realize, like, yep, I still love this class so much and I can never leave it. So now I bounce in between. Like, obviously for farming, I'll do some Talus and some Rod gameplay. And then for the most part, like UQs and stuff, I still do Talus because it's so easy. But obviously right now with like Dark Fowls and stuff, big bosses, I'm trying to clear with Partisan, because you just can't beat melee combat, and especially Avenger Arts. If nobody's tried Hunter, give Avenger Arts a try, just like Braver. It's some of the most rewarding combat you could ever experience in NGS.
For sure. So speaking about, we're going to transition into the gear. So how do you feel the gear progression is in Kvaris, especially with the 6-star rarities and the 7-star rarity weapons?
I wish... Okay. Let me try to get this out of the way. I like it, but I also dislike how they release the information, or release the content. The drip-fed style approach of every single week getting stuff. Because when we first got into the region, we knew 6 stars were going to be a thing, and that's what was a thing. We realized really early Rocks weapons were a pretty low drop rate, so a lot of us interpreted that as, oh, this is our new relic weapon, which was a sound interpretation to make. They were really good. They had all these different item potentials, and so we're like, yeah, that's the new weapon series. So a lot of people went ham, started throwing Addy capsules on it, upgrading it, thinking that was the best thing. And then a day or two later, we see 7-star that's just humongous stats and way better. And it put me in a loop. Like, I could not believe that 7 stars were already out in the game and they were that much stronger. And I think a lot of people were really concerned that, wait a minute, we thought Rocks was already rare. Now we have this even more rare weapon and it's so much better. And it put a pretty bad taste in my mouth, because I thought that the game learned its lesson from Relic, and how unfair it was to people that you could play all day every day and never get that drop, and then to others they could get really lucky and get multiples. and basically make some players like filthy rich overnight just by playing a little bit, and then others are, you know, being treated on the other end and playing all the time and not getting anything. I did not like the relic meta for that reason. And then here you have relic meta on steroids, because it is way better than what we experienced in Return with relics. And so I was pretty upset about that. And at that time, we did not know about the craftable weapon. So here you are sitting here thinking, all right, well, I can go into 6-star weapons, but do I want to upgrade them when I know something is so much better out there? I could just save up money and get that, right? And I think for that first week, it put a lot of the community in a weird position of kind of FUD, you know, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Like, do I want to upgrade anything? And I think that's a really unhealthy view of the game when we just got a new update. You should be overly excited to upgrade. You should see a weapon and be like, yeah, I want to upgrade because I want to, you know, I want to progress through the content. And now we see something so rare but so good, you're like, well, man, do I want to put all my money into this? I should probably start saving for that. And I felt like that was a really bad approach to the release of a region, to have that feeling. But then the next week we got the craftable weapon, and it was like, oh, here you go, you can make a 7-star. And I was like, okay, peaks and valleys, like I told you, here we are, we're back on the peak. Like, this is great. Okay, you don't have to go rugged, you can get your 7-star craftable, you can make it. This is what we were all waiting for, was a craftable weapon, and it's a 7-star. That's amazing. But I don't think they did a good job with deciding what content is necessary to make that weapon. You kind of, when you decide on making something, or like having like a system for crafting, there's a couple ways you can go about it, right? You can make it like locked behind like really tough content, say like a raid, and you need like the boss drop to go make the weapon. So like you have to be really good, and you have to go do like one source of content to make that weapon, but it's gonna be a difficult process to get it. And then the other way is to make you go adventure around the region, maybe gather things, maybe kill things, acquire things, and then going and doing all these things, you finally make the weapon. And their approach was kind of like halfway in between. They made you go destroy ancients because that was our new content, and then everything else was just gatherable materials. And I sat there like, man, they really missed an opportunity to make you go clear gigantics, make you go clear veterans, maybe make you go clear certain formers if they had like a formers drop that you needed, and like make you go experience the whole entirety of Retem. Because as you see now, the Kaiser weapon crafting solution is go get your ancients and then go clear boxes. You don't experience any content. And once again, it's like, man, you have this whole region you want people to play in, and we're kind of subjected to just doing a few things in the region, even though this weapon craft is, I feel like what Sega was kind of aiming for you to log in and work on every day. Log in and decide on what you want to do. And I just think they missed the opportunity to give more people more things to do, so they can check off more things on their list and acquire these things to make that weapon. So I don't know, like I'm not really happy with the 7-star meta. I kind of wish we were just in the 6-star, because I think it would have been more healthy overall. I think we would have everybody would have worked on their gear, worked on their weapons, gotten to rocks, and then at a later point 7-star reveal. I mean, I sit here and wait, like, when is 8-star then? You know, like, if we got this so quick, when is 8-star? And it's not healthy to have a game where you're always constantly thinking like, well, when's the next weapon? Is it going to be that much better? Do I want to invest in? MMO problems though. MMO problems.
Indeed. I definitely agree with the part of 7-stars were released a little bit too early, because 6-stars literally died on day 2 of Kvaris when the first rugged weapon was dropped, and we posted that on Twitter, and we're just like, wow, it's like, 200 damage higher than your 6-stars. So regardless of the potential, it didn't matter that, 7-stars were always going to be superior. And soon after that, when we learned of the crafting system with the Kaiser weapon, we were like, oh yeah, this is great. And then we realized that our augments don't transfer over. And that was another big blow. And we're just like, uh-oh, this is a big deal. So I definitely agree. However, the thing that you raised up earlier was very interesting about experiencing all the different types of content in order to create your Kaiser weapon or your 7-star weapon. I think that was a very interesting idea of like, oh yeah, you need to do a little bit of veterans, you need to do a little bit of combat zones, a little bit of explorations. So it's like, maybe it's not as crazy as like the Blizzardium issue right now, or like 60 ice cubes or whatever from the ancients. You know, it seems really focused the way it's designed right now. But I like your idea quite a bit. I made a video originally with an idea of they should have focused on the Gorge, where we get Blizzardium, we get all the materials we need to make our Kaiser weapon in the Gorge, and the stuff that we kill in the Gorge lowers the respawn timer for the Ancient. So you kill the Ancient, and then you kill stuff in the Gorge so that the Ancient respawns faster. And that was my original idea for the gameplay loop. Because the Gorge area is, you know, all the mobs are level 64, it's considered the endgame area. So you're supposed to go there to farm for endgame things. And so I thought that was a very big missed opportunity, but I definitely like your idea as well, because it allows people to go to different areas and experience different things, like people who've never done vet farming. Oh, now you can experience it a little bit. But it would have to be in a reasonable amount of quantity and not like outrageous, because certain people like myself, I don't like death farming, but I know like you and a lot of your community really enjoy that type of content. But if I was forced into doing death farming or that type of playstyle for a long period of time, I would burn myself out, because I'm doing something that would feel like a chore. You know, I'm doing something that I don't enjoy. And so I do like your idea, but they would have to be in moderation for everything. That way, you know, people don't burn themselves out and people don't end up hating the process. Because I want to ask you, do you think that the process of making endgame gear or upgrading anything should be enjoyable, or do you think there needs to be a fine balance of challenging, enjoyable, and like, you know, not fun? I guess.
Yep, that's what I was gonna say. There's a healthy balance when you design these systems, right? So how it is right now, we only need 4 items. So there, you know, the requirements for them are, you know, 60 plus icicle cubes, and then you need 150 Blizzardium. As you introduce more materials required, you can reduce the requirement of the others, because, you know, you want that player to spend so much time doing things, but you don't want them to have to spend all the time doing one thing. And so there would be a healthy balance if you had made them go get X material and Y material. And the other beautiful thing about including so many other things and requiring them to go through things, you can make that rarity a little bit more achievable. You know, you don't have to make these things so rare. You can have one part of the grind be really easy and have, you know, a 10-20% drop rate on these monsters. Then you can make another one be, you know, 1%, but you only need 5 of them. And so some things are going to feel like a struggle, but you need so little. Oh my God, I got one. I'm 1/5 of the way done. And that's how you keep the carrot on the stick for players, is that you wake up, you get on your game, you're off work, and you figure out like, I'm going to work on this part of the craft, or I'm going to work on this part of my gear. You know, a lot of other games do it, and like even, you know, base game has done this before. Like I'm working on some gear in base game, and I have to go get specific modules, and they revolve around certain bosses. So there's a lot of ways I can get that. I can go to the UQ, I can go through divides to get that, but I have to get these modules from these bosses to make my gear. So I have to go find those bosses, but there's multiple ways to find that boss and do that content. You know, just there's a healthy balance between that. And then, yeah, to your other question of like, should it be fun or should it be difficult? Some things should be fun and others should be difficult. You don't want it to be super cake and easy. Obviously, if you were to be like a severe crafting system, you know, you could have super easy crafts that are weaker, but the best of the best should be a little bit difficult. It should be something that is rewarding. You should have, you know, you went through that whole path to get that weapon and you're excited that you finally make it. I don't know how many people are excited about Kaiser, crafting their Kaiser, aside from being done breaking the boxes. As a matter of fact, everybody asks, I'm like, congrats, is like, I'm just done with boxes. That's the wrong attitude to have about crafting a weapon, but that's kind of the position they put us in, since Blizzardium doesn't drop from anywhere else. And to go to your position, or to go to your idea about the Gorge, I love it. I watched that video. I was like, man, they should do something with Ancients. That's a whole other conversation. But the Gorge is like, nobody uses the Gorge anymore. We all thought it was going to be really important, and here it isn't. You know, it's not. And if they wanted to keep the same crafting resources, it's surprising to me that like bosses don't have a chance to drop Blizzardium. Then if you had any level 50 plus boss or any just major boss in the region have a chance to drop Blizzardium, now you could go vet farming, now you could go Gigantics farming, you could go Gorge farming because there's bosses there and you could get Blizzardium. There'd be other ways. It just feels like there was some nearsightedness with the crafting system. But we as a community have been really good about, advocating the problems here, and developers, the dev team have been responding to them. So, hopefully they hear us loud and clear that, yes, you did answer our first problem, which was we want to be able to make weapons, but the requirements for making the weapon is not enjoyable. We need to work on that now. So
indeed. So I need to ask you about the Rugged series, because the Rugged series are an amazing weapon. The potential of that weapon is it's so much better than the Kaisar weapons in my personal opinion. But do you think there should be a pity system of some sort in order to obtain a Rugged weapon? Or do you think that it should be this stupidly rare weapon or this extremely covenant item? What's your opinion?
I think neither. I don't think a healthy MMO should have the best weapon always be locked behind a very, very, very low drop rate. I think that's really unhealthy, and it caters an unhealthy attitude behind the game of, well, maybe I'll get it. Really, the really rare chances should be cosmetics, camos, accessories, something that you can acquire but doesn't affect the game aside from just aesthetics. If anything, the Rugged series should be a little bit weaker than what you can craft, and then you could put more emphasis on the difficulty of the craft. I don't like the game right now because of people feeling like, oh, this is the run. Like, I joke about it every time you do a Yuki, you're like, oh, this is the run, and then you never get it. Like, that's such a empty feeling that you should never have in the game. You should do content because you want to do it, and your rewards are a byproduct. But when they introduce a weapon that's superior to anything else, like, that's not a healthy way of keeping people in the game. And I feel like that's what they've made it out to be. Like, oh, go for Rugged, this is the best series, but you're never gonna get it. Like, you're rarely gonna get it. It's just, in my opinion, a really unhealthy way to try to maintain a player base. So to answer your question, no, Rugged shouldn't exist in the first place. But if it had to exist, if there was a pity system, I don't even think that's fair either. I was talking about it on stream. We were talking about, like, is there a way that you could make a pity system of doing content? Like, every time you clear it, you get a point or something, and you could, like, use those points for something. But that's gacha stuff. That's like games, you do that for gacha. You spend money and you get rewards. Well, we kind of already have that with our gacha with, like, fashion. Like, I don't want that tied to actual progression in the game. They honestly just need to get remove the Rugged and remove that whole idea of, like, the rarest weapon being the strongest either. I just do not like that. And you can see it when you talk to people. Like, everybody's just so stressed about either having to spend multiple hundreds of millions of Meseta getting the best weapon, or trying to drop it at such a low percentage that you probably can't even write it out on a piece of paper what the percentage is. It's just so low. Just get it out of the game, and I think it'd be a much healthier game state.
Okay, interesting take. I personally think that they could have used a collection folder. Like, you played the base game. Do you remember the weapon collection folder or not?
It was amazing for trying new classes. Loved it.
So I was thinking maybe they could introduce that into NGS in the sense that, hey, remember all of your old weapons? They're not absolutely useless or trash. You can actually use them and put them into the collection folder. And if you collect enough of each weapon, you can get a reward of some type. And I would think that, maybe you could put the Rugged weapon there as one of the rewards if you complete a certain amount of collection folders or something along those lines. That way, every time we do our UQ and we get like 16 Resurger weapons, at least some of them are useful, or at least it has a use case other than just auto sell, right? I would like to see something along those lines in order to earn a Rugged weapon. But I do agree in your point of view where the Rugged weapon shouldn't be the best in slot. I believe that the crafted weapons should be stronger than the Rugged weapons, but the Rugged weapons should offer like a special type of utility, or like a quality of life thing, where it's like, oh wow, okay, so if you have this, it makes your farming or makes your life a lot easier. But if you're just going for pure damage and if you just want best in slot, it should be leaning towards the crafted things, which is more achievable for the mass majority of players.
I don't think anybody would have a problem with having more systems where your efforts are rewarded. So in the case of your idea with the collection folder, nobody would have an issue with being able to, put weapons that you've earned or been awarded to get something new that can be effective in the future. Everybody has a problem with really low percentage rates being the only way to get good gear. And so to piggyback or to mix with your idea, I wouldn't mind rugged being in something like that. I just wouldn't want it to be the best, right? But they could make it comparable. You could have multiple ways of getting your weapon, and I think that would be really cool. Options. We just want options. Crafting was a really great option, and it's an option that a lot of us are using. Instead of playing the RNG game, I can put my effort towards something else, and I can still acquire a really good piece of equipment in the game, right? Options are good. So the collection folder is a really cool idea. I think that would be really fun. I always love the collection folder idea for base game because you could try a new class. A lot of us are hesitant on trying classes because I don't want to spend money on it. I don't have the gear for it. Well, if you could get a piece of equipment with, mediocre augments on it right away, just like they do in the collection folder, that'd be great. Then you could go try another class. And for new players, how amazing that they would have something that they could achieve at any milestone that they are in the game. They could find a rarity weapon that they could work towards and get, sending your goal to things when you get into game is the best thing you could have for an MMO.
So speaking about low drop rates, we need to talk about the whole Blizzardium farming problem. I say it's a problem.
It is. Absolutely is.
The community, and I think a lot of it was to you, that we found the Blizzardium farm method, which actually saved the game in my opinion, because it allowed everyone to work towards their Kaiser weapon without being time gated. So the first question is, I need to ask you, are you okay with time gates at all in PSO2?
Time gates are good time gates are good in a game so that people can't just progress really fast, right? Time gates are what allow an MMO, any game, and in NGS's case too, you to naturally progress from, one state of the game to the next, right? They can introduce harder monsters. In the case of us going to say example level 65, that would be a time gate, and then there would be new gear, right? With the craft in mind though, I did not like that we were going to be time gated for 5 straight weeks behind something that doesn't involve playing the game. And that just comes back to the crafting materials. If it was locked behind, Dark Fowls triggers where you can only get one a week and you can only clear one a week, then you have to actually have to go do content. But you could do more if you could find a group of people, so you may have the chance to get more or something. That would be better. But locking it behind something that you just go gather once a day, hope for your treasure shop to be something, and then exchange 20 a week, you're not doing anything in game. You're just logging in and not doing anything. And once again, your goal as a developer or as a game company should be to make that 1 or 2 hours that somebody plays really rewarding. And when you introduce a crafting system that allows you to go fight ancients, which are free, and once you've done those fights, all you have left is just to gather minerals. That's not an interesting crafting material requirement. It just isn't. And then as you see, the byproduct of that is somebody found a trial that has these boxes, and that became the new trend because now I'm not gated anymore. I can go and accomplish what I want, which I think is good. If you really want your weapon, you should be able to work really hard for it. But man, is it a pain. And it's a double-edged sword. It really is. I can't do it. I could do it for 30 minutes, but it melts my brain, and that's why I'd much rather just farm in a room where I'm guaranteed every once in a while to see some boxes, and if I get Blizzardium, I'm great. But I can't do the farm. It's frustrating. It can be really frustrating.
Yeah, I'm fully there with you. I saw you actually commented on Swagala's video because, he managed to get 2 Kaiser weapons crafted through the method. And I found that insane because you know, that's 300 Blizzardium, and he did it in what, like 4 days, 3 days, and that sheer willpower is insane. But more importantly is that type of playstyle of remaking rooms and joining other players' passworded rooms and stuff like that. First of all, it got the community together, which was great. You know, we all had a common goal. Everyone was like, yo, I want my 7-star weapon, so we're going to do anything it takes to get it. So that was great for especially ship 2 as well as ship 3 actually. We really banded together to do that, and thanks to your Discord for that as well. But personally, for me, I'm in the same boat as you. I really hate that playstyle. I just want to sit in a room. Like, I can do combat zones. You tell me to do combat zones for 6 hours straight to get, like, you know, 10 Blizzardium or whatever. I will do that. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with the drop rate of Blizzardium being 3%. That's not the issue for me, because I do think that you do need to put a certain amount of effort in order to get a 7-star rarity weapon or whatever the best in slot is, right? But it's just the method where all I'm doing is breaking boxes. It doesn't feel like I'm playing the game. And that is the main issue that I have with this method of the gold box farming. What is your take?
So, I agree. I mean, I don't mind the method itself, but some of the byproducts of this method is that a lot of people just leech, and that's when I started to really step back from the system, because there was no reason to get agitated when I didn't need to. I could find another way, and that's what we did. But what would happen is, you know, these rooms, we would usually do them in combat sectors, so they were 8-man rooms, and you going out and fighting things and then seeing a password to try to like type the password in, you would be slower than someone theoretically if they were just sitting there waiting to type a password. And that's what we started to find out, is that, you know, as I'm live streaming and I'm trying to type passwords and trying to do all these things, those rooms would instantly fill up. And then you sit there and wait, and you're waiting and waiting and waiting, and you never get into these rooms, and you wonder, why am I not getting in these rooms? Well, it's because a lot of people are just sitting there and typing in the rooms, not helping the group, rather than they're just leeching off of it. They're going from password to password. They're not trying to create that trial. They're not trying to support the group. They're just there, and they're just typing passwords away to get into these rooms. And I even saw that with like a lot of my close friends. And when I realized that, I was like, oh, this is unhealthy. And I realized what was happening is there'd be like groups of 4 people, and like 1 or 2 of them would go around and try to like populate or like create the trial, and then one person's just sitting there on the password screen ready to type it in and push 4 people right into that room. So if you were by yourself, you would never beat that group into any room. And I just realized really quick, this is unhealthy for me, because I'm going to get upset about that, you know, single players aren't going to be able to farm like that or farm well. There's going to be people just taking advantage of others. I'm never about that in a community. That's why when I try to find farms, it's always everybody helping each other and everybody benefiting off of each other. And I just realized really quick that farm, a lot of people are taking advantage of, and I just dislike that. I really did. And so I've taken a step away from it. I haven't done that farm in a long time, and a lot of my perspective on this region changed because of that, because I wasn't trying to aggressively go for the Kaiser weapon anymore. I was like, you know what, I'm okay taking a couple weeks and just enjoying my time instead of stressing about needing this weapon. And you know, some people, all the power to them to want that weapon right away. I would ask them what content requires it. And so like that was my thing with the whole box thing. It's not healthy. In my opinion, it really isn't. I have a big question for you though, because this is something we've talked about on stream. Is it time for passworded rooms to go away?
Oh man, I don't think it should go away. I think it needs to stay, because I know that the original purpose of why passworded rooms were created was because we had a whole Gigantics problem. Remember when Gigantics were like limited time, like they would disappear after like several minutes, and we had a bunch of alliance members together, and we would be doing these raids or whatever, these fights against Gigantics. And what would happen would be sometimes, you know, random players would pop into our room, and we'd have to ask them to leave because we needed the space for our alliance members. And what ended up happening was there was a lot of drama on ship 1, but this was all the way back when like the game was, you know, we're still in Alio. But people are like, yo, this alliance is freaking elitist. You know, they're kicking out new players, they're kicking out these blah, blah, blah. And that's why we had the whole passworded room thing, where it's just like, listen, if you want to play with your alliance, go ahead. Here, you can make your own private room. But I do see the issue of like people are abusing it, but I can't blame the player base because they're just being smart with it, right? You're just using what you have to solve an issue. And the issue is, we don't have any way to farm Blizzardium. And so I don't think the privated room thing is the problem, or the passworded rooms. I think the problem is whenever we get introduced new gear or new things to work towards, it needs to have a gameplay loop, which I'm going to loop back to what the question I asked you about time gating. I don't like time gating. I don't like any form of time gating in a PC or console game. In mobile games, I understand it because it's a mobile game, whatever. I have different standards for that. But on a PC game or on a console game, I want to play as much as I want, and I don't want to feel like, oh, you know, it's worthless. There's no point playing right now. Because the issue that I have right now with Blizzardium is, if I'm not box farming, there's no way for me to get Blizzardium. Like, I can farm in a combat zone indefinitely, but there are only so many gold boxes. And, you know, it's just, it won't increase the Blizzardium, and that's the only thing that I need to craft my 7-star rarity weapon. So that's my take.
Yeah, well, so I asked this on stream because I was really curious, because I'm like, I don't want to see passworded rooms go because I use them, right? We use them for our depth farm. Like, I like that because I can get the people we need in. And as you said, months ago, a year ago now, with Gigantics, like getting specific people into a room, right? So you can avoid other people if you need to, or just get those people in. It has a purpose and it has a function. But what we've seen in, you know, since the anniversary, the 1-year anniversary event, it's been abused, and it's been to find these farming systems. And I love the farming systems. I love the ingenuity behind it, right? Like, oh, well, we don't have to sit and kill trials. We could just swap around until we find it. That's amazing. But it's taken to an extreme level where it feels like that's the only purpose for these passworded rooms. And so I talked to a lot of people, and they were like, well, maybe you put a time limit on it. Well, if you put like a 5-minute time limit on passworded rooms, would that still give you the function of the original function of passworded rooms without creating these farms that are kind of sort of becoming like, they're not fun, right? But I get the other aspect of it, which is just like, it's solving a necessary evil, which is time gating. I agree with you. I don't really like time gating. I don't mind it if it's in, if it seems fair. You're not like time gated for months, right? But if you're like, yeah, you have to wait like a week or so here and there, I'm okay with that. I guess like soft time gating, think of that. Like, we're kind of time gated right now, but we can get through that by doing the box farm. But like, what if Blizzardium had a low drop rate chance from every boss? Then like, it would still be the same thing. Like, you're gonna get your 27 every week, but you could get more, right? They failed to see how extreme some people would go. They just thought they just thought 5 weeks of, you know, people logging in every day would be good. And I asked that question today on stream. I was like, that's not good. Like, you can't just assume people want to log in and just gather materials. Like, that's not good gameplay. You should be highlighting your highlights of your game, which is the combat and the beauty of the fights and the world. But all you're making people do is just go hit minerals to exchange them in. That's all you want them to do. And it's amazing to me that they don't want to push people in the direction of fighting. Go kill things, go beat things up, go find some people to beat things up with. It's okay. It's mind-boggling to me that isn't the direction that a lot of these systems are taking.
It's interesting that your chat came up with the idea of like, put a cooldown on the password or whatever. I don't agree with that. I personally think it's up to the developers, or maybe even part community, to find a better suggestion or idea to make staying in a room more efficient than room hopping. Like, room hopping is a thing now because it's the meta. It is the most efficient way, and that's why everyone does it. If it doesn't become as efficient, or if it's not the best solution for your problems, or the fastest way, or the most efficient way, people won't do it. So what I think the developers need to focus on is, okay, people are room hopping for Blizzardium. Maybe we should change our focus and be like, if you stay in a combat zone, maybe you stay in a room for 30 minutes or above, and if you kill X amount of enemies, so, you know, to avoid AFKers, your Blizzardium percentage chance increases on the mobs, or on the boxes, or in whatever. So it encourages you to stay in a room to farm as long as you can, so that, you know, because you benefit from it, or it becomes the most efficient method. I think they need to look at that instead of punishing or trying to fix existing quote-unquote problems, because it's not really a problem. It's just, this is what the community has decided, that this is the fastest way to do it.
Solving that evil.
Exactly.
Yeah, if they had something better in place, we wouldn't be having this conversation about this farm, because there would be a better solution. But this all comes back to just, how do you create a system that serves a fulfillment of sorts? You don't do that by time gating, as you said. You also don't do that by not having that item droppable by creatures. Let us go kill stuff. Like you said, in a combat zone, or if you're in a room, if bosses or trial bosses drop Blizzardium, you people would feel more served to just run around in a group, kill the monsters, because that boss monster could drop it, and then, oh hey, we hit the Tundra trial where the boxes can spawn Blizzardium, and then you would naturally just keep farming, because, you know, you could just farm out and get some. On the other hand, people would still do the password trick. That's fine, but you could just go run around in the world and get Blizzardium too. Like, not everybody wants to do the box thing, but you really don't have a choice, and that's the issue. They can make us have that choice, right? And that's just the nearsightedness of, Blizzardium is going to be the time gate. Do we really want people to suffer? That's the question.
Exactly. This actually leads us perfectly into point 3 that I wrote over here about, do you think Blizzardium, making it a sellable material, like a tradable thing that you could put on the marketplace, do you think that would solve like 90% or all of the issues about Blizzardium, or not?
I would not want Blizzardium tradable. I think it would cause a lot of issues with scalping. I think there would be a big issue with botting as well, if boxes can just be destroyed and get Blizzardium. I think there would be a lot of bad that could come from them being sold. I think you would just see a lot of people controlling the market, since it would be such a necessary resource that I would not want it to be sold on the market. No, I like that you have to go gather everything. You have to put in the work. I think that's a redeeming quality of crafting systems. I did everything. I can't let my wallet build this weapon for me. Like, say, example, a rugged weapon. You know, you could scratch all you want to and buy it. No, you had to really work your butt off to make that Kaisar series. You had to go get everything yourself. I like that. That's a good thing about a crafting system, is that rewarding feeling when you complete it, because you put in every single second of effort to make it.
Yeah, I think that's actually, I like your take. The reason why I wrote this question to begin with was because in the base game, there are a lot of materials that you can use that you needed in order to create your endgame armor or your Klaus units as well as weapons. And a lot of those pieces were actually sellable material. So it encouraged a lot of people to run Divide Quest, to run all of this different content, to gather all the pieces, to sell it to people that needed it. Because, for example, let's say that you have your Kaisar weapon. If you have your Kaisar weapon, you're never going to go gold box farming ever again, right?
You know, I can see your point there. I think my issue with specifically this craft is that we only need 4 resources. So if you unlock one of those resources to be sold, you're entering the position where it is the sole resource that everybody needs. You can go gather it, but it's going to be pure hell, or you could spend however much money it is going to be per one. And I just think that's a bad situation. Moving forward, when we have more craftable gear and there's a bunch of resources that people need, I could see you having some of them be sellable and be okay. I see your point you're getting to, because like back in base, like I'm trying to make my Klaus weapons. Well, I can buy all of the modules that I need. I can go buy them if I want to. And like you said, oh, go do divides. You can make some money. I'd be okay with that. But that also requires them to create a crafting weapon that requires you to go clear monsters, not boxes. And in that case, yeah, sure, sell some and have 4 or 5 things that you need, and you can make them all sellable. In the beginning, it would be scalped all hell, but as we move forward and we have more gear, and as people decide, hey, let's go farm these, like, the price probably would settle. In this case, only Blizzardium being available to sell? No. If you had all of the resources, the orbs, the cubes, I could see it. I could see that, you know, it wouldn't be as bad. You know, you could keep an eye on the market and maybe buy a couple to ease your pain.
So I need to ask you, because you've been a main driving force for a lot of, or coming up with a lot of different farming methods. So what drives you to create / invent all these methods?
You know, I've been an MMO gamer at heart since I've been a kid. So when you start a game, you're always trying to find what's the most efficient way, what's the best way. With MMOs, it's always what you're trying to do. At least in my case, I'm always trying to figure out what's the best farm, what's the best use of my time. So that's kind of my background, is I've always been one to try to find efficient ways to do things. And as I grew up and YouTube became a big source of information, and Wikipedia and whatnot, like, you would just type in whatever game guide, money guide, and you would find these guides. And so that always kind of was in my background of, like, always looking at guides and always checking to see, like, what do people do in this game to make money. And so, you know, when I started my whole journey with NGS, I wanted to build a community to do things. It wasn't to make guides or anything, but I wanted to make the community. I didn't want to have to try to find one. And so that's what we aimed to do. And it just so happened that, like, well, there's not a lot to do. There's not a lot to do but make money. So how do we make money? And, you know, everybody seemed to think that it was only combat zones. And I was like, can't be the only way. It just can't be the only way to make combat zones of money. And, you know, early on in the game, we found veterans, and I found out, like, oh, nobody does these because you need a lot of people. And we have a lot of people. We have a community that'll do it. And so it just kind of, like, it just snowballed from there. Building a community that was all behind the idea of, like, let's go find some other way to make money, because we don't want to do combat farming either. Combat sector farming, and, you know, that's where it started. And so obviously vet farming was really important in the formative months, and then it wasn't until deafness became really expensive. And it wasn't my idea either with the whole deafness thing. It was a community member, like, they were memeing on me. They just wrote it in the Discord, and they were like, hey, find a way to farm this. And I was like, all right, I have nothing else to do on my day off. And so I just started running around to the regions and, like, oh, hey, the first one was, like, the West Alio thing, which wasn't the good one, but it was like, oh, this is a way you could do it. And then soon enough, we're like, well, people just asking questions, hey, let's get 32 people together. And it's like, all right, cool. So then, you know, the rest is history. Deafness farming is a thing, but it wasn't ever my idea. I've always been one that I want to share information to people. I really don't like the attitude of the elitist attitude of, like, oh, we found something, keep it secret so we can profit. I just think that's a really poor taste, and I feel like I want to play a game where everybody's having fun, because that means the game is in a good state, compared to me and 5 other people being really rich and nobody playing it because nobody has been having fun, and they could have been maybe with that type of strategy or that farm. So I'm always an open book when it comes to, you know, guides or strategies with this game, because I want people to have things to do. I think it's safe to say that a lot of the problem with this game is there's not enough things to do. So, you know, if I can spend a little bit of time with the community and we can come up with another way that another handful of people from ship 2 or another ship can enjoy the next day, week, or month in game, and they're still giving NGS a chance, I consider that my job done. You know, as a creator for this game, trying to, you know, keep people motivated to continue playing this game and keep giving it a chance, because I really think it'll turn around at some point. So, you know, my goal with making guides, it was, you know, I just had a YouTube channel and people followed my channel because we did things that made money. That was really it. And it was really the community that kept, you know, giving me ideas, and I just had time and was willing to, you know, accept their idea as a good opportunity, and, you know, turned into things. You know, it's not me that makes ideas, it's everybody. You know, we all have really good ideas, and I think, you know, that's something you got to remember.
So personally, my opinion is I think Sega needs to implement some sort of system in order to help the community band together to do specific activities. A great thing that you have been doing is you found the whole Dread Keeper farming as well as the Deafness farming, and you built up your own community. So you have a big community, so whenever you want to log on and you want to do specific things, you just turn on your stream and you've got people coming in and you get it going. But there are other players that don't stream. Maybe they're not, they're not YouTubers, they're not Twitch streamers, they're just a regular player. As a regular player, I feel it's a lot harder for them to build up a community in order to jump in to do whatever they want at whatever time they want. And do you think that Sega should find a way or implement something in order to help these players? Do you have any ideas?
Absolutely. I constantly see on videos that, well, this is great for people who have a lot of people to play with, but like in my case, I'm a single player, and I completely understand that. A lot of that is using resources, and they may not be like shown to you right away, but when you get into a game, you should always be checking Discords. You should always check Twitch or live streaming. It doesn't hurt to check and see what other people are doing. Utilizing your resources as a player is far and none the most important thing you can do, especially when getting into an MMO. You can't just it could happen. You could play by yourself, find an alliance, and find your group, but it doesn't always happen like that. So I think for a lot of players, they just don't find anything because they don't really put a lot of effort into trying to find a community. But I do think that there could be a lot of action taken with Sega in-game. We have this whole group chat system, and it's a nightmare to handle. I've been going through it myself, but the group chat is a great way to get hundreds of people together, chatting all together. And it kind of hurts me that there's a cap limit, because I have so many people that are brand new to the game that I would have no problems inviting if I had space to invite them to a group chat. And that is an instant source of hundreds of people who play this game that can help that person and get them involved in things. And so I think they already have the systems in place to really enjoy the game and find a community. They could even add in a system where you can look for a group chat, and you could put in certain parameters and be automatically filled into some group chats where they allow it to have some sort of open recruitment where it could be a way to get people together right off the bat to try to do things. But I agree, there should be some better things for a single player to do. I don't think that they should have to look for others either. I do think that there should be some better things for them to do as a single player, or going to just a couple people around the world. It's just the unfortunate truth that a lot of the things that are good are 4-man content where you have to have good gear, or it's 8-man content in combat zones, or it's 32-man content in the exploration zones. That's kind of how the game works right now. But the group chat system, the group chat feature would solve a lot of problems if it was showcased in game more as a useful feature. I wonder how many people start this game and never think about looking at that group chat feature, because you have to be invited, and it's a missed opportunity for sure. I would also like them to revamp some things for the owners to be able to take care of the group chat. They recently, the developers, answered a question about alliances and changing the duration on alliances so that you can more easily identify who is actually playing and who isn't, because I think they're making it like 3 weeks now or something. Or I think you could set the time, is what they said, because previous to that, it's 3 months before it starts saying that there's no recent logins. It's a nightmare to keep these group chats organized and allow more people to get in. But they have the system. I think the group chat system is an easy way to get a lot of people involved, and for whatever reason, that whatever they want to do in game, there's probably a group chat out there. And if they had some sort of like open recruiting system, and if they uncapped or at least made it way bigger for these group chats, I think it'd be a really good opportunity to get new players or single players involved in a community in game without having to go anywhere else to maybe try to find some things to do.
I agree with the group chat idea, but I personally have a system in mind where I would like them to implement, like go a step further. Since we have our passworded rooms, we have different lobbies, we can search times, like when a room was created, how many people there are in it, etc. I would like to see the ability to just put a tag or like a note in a room and be like, yo, the person here is doing death farming. So we have that party system already where you can just say you put up the little pink symbol and people click on it and they can see what activity you want to do. I'm thinking do that at a larger scale. Whenever you go into like an exploration zone, you can put on a tag if you're the host of the exploration zone and be like, listen, this is for, vet hunting. This is for deafness farming. And people can see that and be like, yo, I want to do that. And they can just join into that room and boom, you've got people, people that want to do the same thing all in one room together. Of course, there is the fine logistics of like, positioning on where everyone should farm and stuff like that. But at the very least, you've got everyone together, like-minded people that want to do the same activity. And I would like to see something along those lines being implemented into the game.
That would be so easy to implement too, and I love it. You could do it so easy, such as like in your party recruitment. You even say in party recruitment, there's like dread hunting, there's money farming. I think they have those tags for when you join the group, and you can search through Party Finder that way too. Like, oh, I want to find somebody dread hunting, and you select that, and it's going to bring up parties dread hunting. Doing that for the room transfer would be really good. Because then like who cares if I'm looking for what room? I could just put on that dread hunting, or sort by category if you want to, right? And the category could be money making, dread hunting, capsule farming, and have these generic tags that one person can just sift through and be like, I just want to go make money today, money making, and see what rooms are going and what rooms are full, and just see what's going on in there. You don't have to stay there if they don't like it. Hey, what are you guys doing? And that would be a really good opportunity that anybody could use. Even Xbox players could use that, because sometimes it's hard to chat. So an Xbox player or a console gamer could use that feature really well, just by using the room transfer function with some tags. So that's a good idea.
So now I want to put you in the power seat. Let's say that you had direct access to the development team and they would implement whatever you wanted. What would you change about the game with existing content, not new content? What would you change with the existing content?
Yes, because like obviously, if I had open access to everything and I could make one executive decision, I would do raiding. I would create some sort of raid content, dungeoning content. I think that's what we've been missing and what we want. But right, to answer your question, something that we already have existing, I've been a firm advocator on this right here. And I know you know this really close because you do them every single time. The what are they called? The relentless training. They need to do something with relentless training to make it more beneficial. And the thing that they do with relentless training to make it beneficial is, you can confirm this for me because I've never done one. There's level 1, 2, and 3, and then you have a lot of quests in it, right? Mm-hmm. So this is what you do to make relentless training one of the most important things for anybody to do in game. And because it's one of the most important things to do in game, people are going out and doing a lot of things, since relentless training requires you to do a lot of things. Level 1, you complete it. They have like certain time frames for these relentless trainings when they first open up. I don't know how long it is, like 2 months or something. That's what they would set the time frame. In that first 2 months that relentless training is open, when you complete all of level 1, you have the ability to add a Fixa level to any piece of armor. That includes going from 0 to 1 and choosing the Fixa you want it to have. That would be, for example, if you had a Fixa 3 Enthusia, you could upgrade it to Fixa 4. And when you complete level 2 Relentless, you get to add or upgrade any weapon Fixa in that time frame, that 2-month time frame. And then if you complete the 3rd level, you get to choose between adding a Fixa level to armor or a weapon, and you get to decide that. And the whole reason I think this would be a good idea is because, one, relentless training takes you across the whole region. You're going and doing a bunch of things, kind of like what we were saying is the missing feature of the crafting right now. You're not doing anything. Relentless training makes you go kill everything, go do everything, go destroy everything. And sometimes it's really taxing. There's some quests that are really painful, but this would be the most rewarding thing. Think about if this was in the game since the beginning. Some people would be running around with Fixa 5 Giants by this point, and maybe they never change out of that gear because they worked really hard and they got to upgrade the gear as they've been using it. This would also solve the problem with Kaisar right now, where everybody's like, I hate that I cannot have Fixas on the Kaisar weapon. Well, if you were to do relentless training right now, you had 2 months. Within 2 months, you could get a weapon and you could start Fixa upgrading it. Well, you would be able to craft your Kaisar and you could upgrade it to Fixa 1 And then if you wanted to use your level 3 reward, you could get it to a Fixa 2 right now. And then whenever they do the next reward seasonal period for another relentless training period, you could get it up to Fixa 4 if you wanted to. And I think that would be something that would make use of an old system that rarely nobody uses and would make it one of the most impactful things to do. And it would be one of those things where you can log in daily and work towards it because you know you're getting like serious rewards for doing it.
I really love the idea that you just suggested. It sounds fantastic, but I would change a couple things. The first thing would be the final reward. I would like to see that as like a weapon selector ticket of some sort. Let's say that you want that rugged weapon. You have to work through all of relentless training, beat the 3rd stage, and then you get your rugged weapon. Guaranteed. Boom, there you go. You can select whatever weapon you want, but I love the idea of level 1, level 2 being Fixas. Because the thing that you might not know is relentless training is repeatable. Once you finish stage 3, you get reset back to stage 1 again. But you can do it indefinitely, basically. So what I would like to see actually is the first clear at stage 3, you get your weapon. But you can keep rinsing and repeating. You can keep working on your relentless training and basically unconditionally get your Fixa 5 weapons as you just keep looping it through. But that might be a little bit overpowered. So maybe, we stick with your original idea of just saying that the first loop that you do, you get your Fixa rewards. But after that, maybe you get capsules. Maybe you get like other important items which can still be worth your time. Because this season of Relentless Training, there's one quest at 2-5 where you get 10 capsules of Dreadkeeper 3s. So that one was good because I was like, wow, 10 Dreadkeeper 3s, that's a lot of money. That's still, that's decent. But other than that specific reward, everything else was garbage. So I was just like, well, you did one thing right, Sega, but the rest isn't worth my time. So I do agree. I really like your idea.
I think a mixture of the two. I don't like the idea of making it repeatable or like getting rewards from repeatable, because then that turns into all that the game is, and then that becomes a whole new toxic mess, right? But my idea was that over the course of a year, over the course of content release, they can add these seasons where you only get those Fixa upgrade rewards if you're there in the moment. So if you went back to do Retems, you wouldn't get that reward. It would be in the moment you're playing right now when this content is live. When it's relevant, you can do this, have a time frame for it and you get the rewards, so that it adds emphasis to, hey, play. Even if you don't want to do anything else, you can upgrade your gear throughout the year, throughout the months. And I mean, Fixa 5 gear is going to be amazing, and you could get that over the course of the 6 months. If they did 3 seasons of it, if they did every 2 months, they did a season of this relentless training, you could have a 1, 2, 3, you could have a Fixa 5 weapon. You could. So, over the course, you can progress and build your gear without having to spend money on it, without having to bank on RNG, but it is going to require a lot of effort on your hand, and it's going to require you to put time into the game. But that's what Sega wants. They want you to put time into the game. So I've been an advocate for this for months, and I really want to see it in game. I think it would solve the relentless training issue too.
For sure. I have to bring up the question of, why do you think Sega is being so stingy on drop rates and on loot in general?
We can't break into their minds and get the information. But the thing about MMOs is their design is to be grindy. The whole aspect of an MMO is to make you play a lot, and then the next update comes out and you have to regrind all your gear out because all of your old stuff is irrelevant. So it's in its nature to be grindy. And especially a lot of overseas MMOs have that aspect of very low drop rate, and you have to continue to grind to get them. I've played one game called Maple Story where that's literally the game is 0.1% drop chances for everything. But the big difference is, what is that 0.1% drop rate? And I think that's the biggest issue here, is that the 0.1% drop rate in our game is the weapon with a Fixa. If you get the weapon without a Fixa, it seems useless. If you get a different weapon with a Fixa, it feels useless. So there's so much RNG into that 0.1% chance. Whereas other games, like your 0.1 or 1% chance is a material that goes towards crafting that item, or it's an accessory that doesn't impact the game as significant as our RNG is with NGS. That's why I think, like, when you're asking the question earlier about rugged, if it should be in the game, if we should have a pity system, like, it shouldn't be in the game at all. We should have that be an accessory where it doesn't impact the game, and then the RNG doesn't feel so bad because you're going for accessories. I mean, think about it. How many of us are freaking out about not having some of the next accessories from Trinitas? Like, if you really wanted it, you can go get it, but it's not changing the game. It's not changing the progression of the game. And so that's the biggest issue, is it's what is that 0.1% chance drop? And that's the problem, is that it is equipment that can break the game, and it significantly, power creeps certain people. That shouldn't be the case. It should be accessories and stuff that doesn't affect the gameplay at all. And then I think a lot of people wouldn't have as much of an issue with the game. But if you're going to do that, you have to have these other guarantees in place, like a crafting system. Say, for example, the relentless level up system idea. You have to have these other guarantees in place so that you can work towards getting that gear if it's not going to be an RNG drop.
Yeah, for sure. The reason why I brought up the whole drop rate thing was because I think that the rare loot should be locked behind some sort of skill. Like, for example, the harder the content you do, you should be rewarded for being able to complete that type of content. A great example is, of course, going to be the Darkfalls Rank 2. I think people who complete Darkfalls Rank 2 should have a higher chance of getting the rare items that a lot of people want. Maybe like Blizzardium, maybe like the rugged weapons, maybe even potentially just get a full-on Kaiser weapon from a drop. I feel like that would be okay to be put into difficult content. But I understand that, this game is catered towards the mass majority of casual players. So as a casual player, you can still work towards your Kaiser weapon, you can still work towards your rugged weapon, which, unfortunately the game doesn't allow that. But I would like to see systems like that where it's like, listen, if you're a casual player and you can't do the hardest content, it's fine. You can do the easy content, but it just takes longer. Or if you're, sweaty tryhard and you want to be do the most hardest stuff available in the game, you get rewarded for that. Other than just being able to say, look, I beat Darkfalls Rank 2. That to me doesn't mean anything, but I know to some people it means a lot. But I think that the loot, a lot of the things that the community cares about is the loot. I think this is just like a global thing. Everyone just, when we play Borderlands, when we play gacha games, when we play anything, it's all about what are the rewards first. Is it worth my time? That's what a lot of people are asking themselves. And so I think that the harder the content, the more the rewards there should be, or the higher the drop rates or something along those lines.
Well, what you're asking for is raid loot, which every MMO has, and it's, once again, one of the biggest disparities that NGS has. I would have no problem with rewarding really tough content with really good gear. The issue a lot of people would have with that is, well, that means that a select few that are really good could control the market. No, it doesn't have to be like that, because in any MMO, raid gear is account locked. And that's how you solve that. Maybe you don't give them a Kaiser weapon, or maybe you do, but it is a special weapon that comes out of Darkfalls that is account locked, and then you go have a person that can exchange it for whatever weapon you want, but it's an account locked weapon. And so in that case, you're rewarding the people that are working really hard, but they're getting gear that's stuck on their account. It doesn't affect the market at all. It's a showcase of effort and skill, and you're getting that tough content with that feeling of reward without messing with the market that much and, making it so only a select few people can control it. Because that's my fear when content comes out, is who's going to be able to monopolize on it. And you account lock things, it can't be monopolized anymore. And for your case, like you were saying, like, I want people to be rewarded for completing really tough things. Just make it account lock gear. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. I would still work it, to get my gear, and then I'd be happy with it. And then I can help other people get their gear too. That would actually be content people would do and would probably help people get their gear for. But, as it is right now, especially for Darkfalls, like, I'm still working on my clear. I'm not there yet. But when I get it, like, I'm pretty much done with it. There's not really a lot of incentive for me to do it anymore, since there isn't any end game gear for me there.
Exactly. So, do you consider Dark Falls as raid content, or do you think it's Ancients that is raid content, or none of it?
I mean, I have a different perspective on raid content since I come from other MMOs like World of Warcraft, and I've played a little bit of Final Fantasy 14. Like, those types of raids are like true raids where you have to go through bosses. Oh, and you'll finally get to the big bad guy, but you have to prove yourself by going through all of these other instances of enemies and bosses to get to the big bad guy, to get the real reward. That's like a true raid, at least in my eyes. I do think that Dark Falls Rank 2 is a really good fight, and I do think it is very challenging and is rewarding to even participate in and complete if I ever get there. I think Ancients was a big flop, honestly. Like, I honestly don't even want to talk about it. It's such a sad case. We had so much hope for the whole Gorge and the low temperature resistance damage and the Ancients, and that turns out that honestly is like the biggest that's the biggest fail of the whole region. Nobody goes there. But no, Rank 2 Dark Falls is awesome. I love it. I think it's great. I love the challenge. I just hate that there's no reward at the end.
I'm sort of in the same boat as you. I don't feel like the Gorge was an absolute flop because I like the idea of the Ancients. I feel like the problem with Dark Falls Rank 2 as well as the Ancients is the loot. There's no real reason to drive us to do that type of content. If the loot was good, for example, let's say that every time you kill an Ancient, one person in that arena was guaranteed a rugged weapon. Like, people go ballistic on that. People would go crazy and farm that thing all day, every day, because it's like, yo, listen, it's a guaranteed thing for one person. There's only 32 of us. One of us are going to get it. And you know, maybe put like a restriction like what you said, so it doesn't absolutely destroy the market, and be like, okay, but this type of weapon that it drops is account locked, for example. Or maybe make it tradable in order to just let everyone have an opportunity to get that weapon. Who knows? But I feel like it was the loot that held it back. It wasn't because the boss fight was boring or the boss fight was bad or anything about it. It was just, there was no real incentive for us to do that said content because it didn't drop anything that we really needed. Like, you do your Ancients, you get your 60 ice cubes, and you're just like, peace out, I'm done. And that was it, right?
I'm in a bit of a different boat. I agree with that last statement. Like, you just go get your ice cubes and that's it. My reason why I don't like Ancients is that it's nothing new. They really upsold this whole idea about Ancients are going to be here. You know, you could go to the Gorge and you could go to the cave the week early. There's a data pod there saying, you know, oh, it comes from the sky, you know, and it's formed with ice, and like such a cool like week of wonder. Like, what is going to be here? Just to find out it's Amsvera and Frostal. Like, it's the same monsters we fought, and it's the same problem we have in the game right now, which is just they are just gigantic scaled. They're big bullet sponges with one-shot mechanics that everything kills you, and there's no punishment for dying. There's no punishment for having bad gear. As long as you can survive in the area, you just stand around and make sure you're attacking, you get your loot. And that was my issue, is like, okay, so it's nothing new that we have experienced. It's just it's veterans and gigantics round 3. And that was my problem, was like, I think Ancients would have been better if there was a mechanic behind spawning them, like you kind of mentioned in your video, something regarding farming in the Gorge, or something regarding like spawning it as a trial. And then I also think it should have been one unique enemy. Even if it was only one enemy, if it was unique to Ancients, I still think it would be an interesting thing that people would go back to, because it's the only place to fight things. The reason why Dark Falls is always cool is because it's the only place to fight him. The reason why Pettis Vera is actually pretty fun to do is because it's the only place you fight him. I hate the recycled content that we get, where there has to be a veteran, a Gigantix, and a UQ of pretty much every big enemy we have. Or if none of those, if they're not a Gigant, if they're not in there, like they're in the purple trigger, you know, or they're in the yellow trigger. They're like, one monster is used 10 times. There's never just one piece that stays there as like a staple for certain content. And that was my big disappointment. Is like, oh, I'm fighting an Amsvera that's just going to one-shot me. I'm fighting a Frostal that's one-shotting me. I've already fought hundreds of those, and I've fought Amsvera 50 times in UQs. I don't want to fight those guys anymore. I wanted to see something that was an Ancient. You know, it's just a reskin of the same monsters. So that was my biggest concern about Ancients. And then, yeah, like I said, just it being a veteran, just looking for 10 to 13 minute runes like we always do. No, just pop in there and kill it. That sucks. You know, the Gorge had so much opportunity if there was a way to spawn it. One of my ideas that I had was if it was a world trial. I really thought that would have been like the most impactful thing, if just like how the Stellar Graces occurred, where you would just log in and it would just world trial and you had 24 hours. If you would be out in the world doing things and then all of a sudden, boom, world trial, Ancient has appeared. You have 1 hour to defeat this enemy, and like everybody mad dashes to get to a room like, oh my God, you know, it's this big, massive event. I just feel like that would be even more impactful, because then you could do whatever you want to, but then like the time is now, you have to go do this. I think that would have been really cool too, just for the fact that it would have just been an exciting moment. But no, we didn't get any of that. We got recycled enemies that have more HP and kill you in one shot, regardless of your gear. And it doesn't matter if you die. So it's just like all of our other content, where who cares if you're bad or you're good? You're going to get your loot anyways. And it's just super, super disappointing in my opinion. So much they could have done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really interesting that you say that, because I think that NGS has pretty much, you know, they want to cater to the casual players, right? But the funny thing is, in Final Fantasy XIV and World of Warcraft, you do have casual players and you have hardcore players. But the raids cater to both types of people, which is really, really cool, really amazing. But do you think that if we were to introduce true raids into NGS, do you think that might break the game or break the community? Or do you think it'll make us stronger?
You'd have to go through a lot of iterations of testing of how to make it, you know, succeed with this game. A lot of the ways that, say for example, World of Warcraft, because I do have some raiding experience there, was that you started with big groups and it was a little bit easier, and then you would slowly get down to like 10-man content where like every single person had to be like really on their point and on their job to accomplish the goal of, you know, clearing the raid. But you start out as a big raid, so like you could maybe go with the same concept, kind of I guess like how we have with Dark Files, how like the rate rank one's 8 people and then you go down to 4 people, so everybody's job is more significant. So you could always introduce something like that where it could be very easy, and you can have tiers of gear. So, you know, you could do the entry level raid and get better gear, and then it's up to you if you want to try the harder version of it and go for the better gear. You know, the hardest thing is when you introduce systems, like you're not going to appeal to everybody. And that's like, I think that's something that I don't know for sure, but I just feel like that's something that this game has been afraid of, is appealing only to one crowd or the other. And if they're going to pick a crowd, it's just going to be casual. We're going to be, you could pop in this game and play and have fun, because there is no in-game content. I mean, rank 2 is fun, but once again, there's no loot for it, so it doesn't really feel like we're rewarded for our efforts. But there is a missing piece here, and it's some sort of end-game content. And yeah, raiding could do it, but yeah, some people might not like doing it. Some casual players might say, oh, I don't like doing it because some people are rude. That comes down to community again. That comes down to you know, finding an alliance or a group chat that is willing to practice with you and learn with you. Like, everybody's going to go through their baby steps. And you know, if you're popping into pugs are 50-50. You don't know who you're gonna get. That's any game. So I just feel like it's doing us a disservice trying to like avoiding it for us rather than letting us figure it out for ourselves. I feel like you know, it's kind of like the parent just not letting you fail sometimes and learn from it. I think we would be okay with raids. I would like it. Yeah, I just want something to do, bro.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I really like the idea of raids, but I've realized very quickly that in NGS specifically, we have a very serious problem. And that problem is, the bigger the content, like the more people that you have together doing a specific thing, the more leechers you get. Like, for example, if you're in a combat zone with 8 people, it's very easy to identify a leecher, and then that person gets blacklisted. Bye-bye, they're gone. But when you have 32 players in an exploration zone, for example, deafness farming, it's very difficult to identify, oh, this person's AFK, that person's leeching. Oh, did that person go to the toilet? Or, you know, are they coming back? What's going on here? But it's much, much easier when it's just like, you know, in Dark Falls, for example, when you did Dark Falls today, it was just like, oh, this person was AFK. You know, they didn't come back for 10 minutes. Boom, we know, we've identified the problem, right? But as your group gets bigger and as you're doing content with more and more people, it becomes harder and harder to manage and harder to basically lead, because a lot of people are just going to be leeching or just hanging around or doing nothing, because unfortunately, you know, this is just the case with NGS. There are a lot of people that don't want to work for anything. They just want to get everything. They want to be spoon-fed. They want to be handed all of the endgame gear with zero effort. What's your take on that?
I bet you have a coworker like that. I bet anybody here right now has a coworker that just sits on their butt and just waits for you to do things for them. So I don't think that's something that you need to try to prevent for us. That's a behavior thing. That's a lifestyle thing. One thing you have to remember when players or people are trying to accomplish something, they're more motivated than ever to get that done. Once again, if you're in a pug, it's 50-50. You don't know who you're going to get. But that's why it's so important with MMOs to try to find a community and to use those resources to try to find people. And hopefully your game helps you find those people. Because if you can get in with a group that wants to learn and wants to progress, you're not going to have those leechers. And on the flip side, where you were saying like, yeah, there's a leecher in our group. I mean, if we're still accomplishing the goal, obviously we were like way overpowered. We may have already done it already. Like, it's not the end of the world. But if somebody's taking that spot and we're like trying, that's a personal problem with that person. Like, you can't stop people from wanting to do exactly what you want them to do. That's a part of the beauty of teamwork, right? You're hoping that everybody is on the same page and putting in effort. Once again, I feel like that's a disservice to us to prevent us to have those experiences in a game. I'm not trying to say to be toxic to a person, or I'm not trying to say to be lazy or be an AFKer, but I'm not in the wheelhouse. I'm not in the position to tell that person to do something. But because we are all motivated, our motivation should drive us to try to accomplish something together, and that's the beauty of teamwork and the beauty of anything team related. So I get your point. I get your point, but I just feel like let us try, let us experiment. There's very successful MMOs, as we've been talking about, that have done this, and casual people will do it and endgame raiders will do it. They've obviously done something right. Is there something we can research into to figure out why is it successful? And I think probably a lot of it is just letting the community kind of grow and adapt and not trying to handhold for us.
Yep. Something that I've always been wondering what your take is do you think Sega should reach out to content creators or reach out to the public in general to see, you know, what our feedback is, what ideas we have for specific, you know, problems that we currently face?
So they kind of do it already with surveys. Surveys are really important, but I feel like that's such a broad outreach that it's so many responses. I don't know if they actually sift through them and find really good responses, just because I'd imagine a lot of it is just hate, you know? So I don't know how much really good advice they get. And you said about like the content creators. I mean, we all have our own little communities and we talk to people about this game and we see a lot of people in the game, and obviously we play the game a lot too. So we are kind of like little miniature community managers, if you think of it that way. And so, yeah, I really think that, you know, our feedback is not just our personal feedback. It's the feedback of hundreds, if not thousands of people in some content creators cases, right, Keroppi? Like you are involved with a lot of people, so your ideas are not just your own. It's what you see and what you hear and what you talk about. And so, yeah, we should, you know, content creators should have some sort of feedback, because we make up a majority of this player base, and what we reach and what we see and gain reception from. So yeah, I think that'd be good. You know, they're getting better at communication, but that's still like one of the biggest issues with this game is the lack of communication. And I just don't know what the solution is, because I mean, I feel like it's an easy solution, but you know, just to respond quicker, or, you know, be ahead of a problem rather than waiting for it to exist. Like directly talking about the Kaiser issue, where we had to wait for somebody to grind out gear and waste a weapon with Fixa to see if it transfers. Like, you knew that wasn't going to transfer. Why didn't you tell us that early? Why did you have to wait for us to inquire about it? that's something that we would inquire about. So the communication thing is always going to be an issue, but yeah, open lines of communication is the most important thing you got. And it doesn't really feel like there is a steady open source or open line of communication. So that can heavily be improved on. And if I had the ability to communicate for my community and other players in the game, I would love it, because I do think I have good ideas. I think you have good ideas. I think a lot of the people you bring on this podcast, when you two are talking back and forth, like, you share great ideas. And those ideas aren't just ours. They're the collection of a lot of people that chat with us on a daily basis.
So, we're running a little bit low on time, so I need to flow on to the last question, which I've prepared. And that is, of course, the NGS headline is coming out next week. So what do you think is going to be on it?
Well, a little birdie once told me that there's going to be a certain class that's going to be revealed. So we're going to see that. That's obviously going to be the very big hyped moment about it. Whether or not it's Summoner, I've heard it's going to be Summoner, so we'll see. I'm holding out hope for Lester, but I don't think that's going to be the case. But yeah, obviously the class, the biggest thing in my opinion is the roadmap. We're getting the brand new roadmap, so that's going to be really exciting to see. What do they have in store? Is there going to be any new surprises on there? We're going to have the 10th anniversary event going on, so we'll be able to see what seasonal rewards are going to be a part of that. Obviously there's going to be scratchers and stuff. I'm kind of curious if there's going to be an anniversary UQ. We've had the last two major, we had the spring event, which we had a unique UQ, and then we had the anniversary event where we had a unique UQ. Maybe this is going to be a trend moving forward with some of these bigger events and these seasonal events, that maybe we get a special UQ. So I'm kind of curious if we will maybe get that. So I'm excited for some of that stuff. I'm not really looking, I don't think there's going to be any major reveals. I think the big reveal will be Summoner. So I'm not really prepared for something like Dark Files Rank 1 when we first saw that, where it just caught everybody by storm. But yeah, roadmap, man. Roadmap's going to be so important for us to see what the heck is happening in the next 6 months.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny because I think there is a possibility that Sega doesn't give us a roadmap in the NGS headline. Would you flip out? Do you know a lot of people that would flip out if there was no roadmap, if they didn't show it?
I just think that would just be... Man, a lot of people are already deflated about some stuff that's happened with the Kvaris region, and a lot of us are looking forward to seeing what do you have planned, and for them to basically say we're not prepared and we can't tell you what's planned, I think that would deflate a lot of people. And this game's in a really scary place where you just don't want to disappoint any more people than you already have. It's been a big disappointment for a whole year, and to not bring out a roadmap after every single time a roadmap has ended, the next roadmap was out next month, and you're not going to bring it out now. It's like, that's not good. For me, I mean, I'm not really expecting too many crazy things to happen. I think it's pretty safe. Certain things are happening on the roadmap, just like we saw in the Retem roadmap. We'll go back to Alio and get 5 levels, and there will be rank 4 combat sectors, and we'll get rank 3 purples. There's so many things you can kind of plan out. So I'm not expecting any really big surprises on the roadmap. So for me personally, it is what it is. We'll get the roadmap when we get it. But I think for a lot of people, it's important for them to see what the heck's happening in 6 months, because they've given this game so much of a chance. And like I said, long earlier in the podcast, the writing is on the wall for them. So if they don't see a roadmap, I think a lot of people might be disappointed. All right, well, maybe this is it. I gave Kvaris a chance. It hasn't really seen any improvement, and here I am wanting to see what's going to happen in 6 months, and you guys don't have that ready for me. This might be it for them. So it's a scary thing for a lot of people, but for me personally, I'm gonna keep playing, so it doesn't matter.
Fair enough. I'm in the same boat as you. So I personally don't care if they put out a roadmap or not, because at the end of the day, I'm just gonna be playing the game. New content comes out, I'm curious about what the new content is, or what they plan for the next 6 months. It'd be nice to know, but it doesn't matter to me, because I'm still gonna play the game. I'm mostly excited about, seeing how the Summoner class is. What do they change about it? Because they changed the little icon from what we've seen on Twitter. It's now a musical note. So it's oh, is it a bard now? Is it a musical player? Is it a support class? There's a lot of questions going on around that class now. And I'm just interesting. Very, very cool stuff.
Called that. I called the bard class way back No. I said I was like, yeah, we should get a bard class. But
yeah.
What do you think the summoner class would be if you had a choice? If you could think about a couple things that you would want in the class.
I mean, did you ever play summoner in the base game? Have you tried it or not?
No, but see, that's the problem, is that I've only seen people play it, which the meme is that they just AFK. You just throw a pet out and it just does things for you. So that's all that I really know about that class, is that it was just, you just fed your pet and let it go do work.
Okay, so there's one specific pet that I really love as a summoner, and that is Maron. So Maron is literally this gigantic C4. You pick it up, you like feed it, it becomes super enlarged as it auto attacks, and then you just toss it at the boss and it does like 1,000,000 damage. And there are videos of like people one-shotting bosses like Dark Falls and stuff, and it's just like, oh my god, what the hell happened there? And it's just absolutely
Did you say C4 like the explosive?
Yes, it's like you.
Okay, I'm behind that.
It's freaking. It's my favorite pet ever because it's just so stupid. It looks super cute, and it grows bigger and bigger and bigger, and then you just yeet it into the boss, and it just explodes, and you just one shot and annihilate the boss, and you're just like, holy crap, this class is amazing, but. That is the only pet that I like in the arsenal of all the different pets that the summoner has. So I would definitely love to see Maron still there, because it is my favorite pet. But other than that, I don't know. Because it's now a musical note, I'm kind of thinking, is it going to be a support class? Is it going to be sort of like a Tekker-ish type of class, where, you're there to heal and give shields and whatever? Or... is it, what type of playstyle is it going to be? I'm kind of curious myself now.
My thought on the class is that you won't have pets anymore. Rather, you will have skills that are inspired by the spirits of pets. I think we've already seen the summoner class, a portion of it, in the rail enemy, where they have birds that they can glide with, they can throw out, they can bring them, call them from the ground up, they can also bring them from the sky and drop them down. I think that class is going to be more of that manner, where you're not summoning a creature, but you have skills that are inspired by creatures. So you might have like a bear attack, where it's a really strong attack that is really strong for single target, or you might have wolves, you may have like a dragon for like fire breathing, like big AoE. And maybe, just maybe, I was talking about this on stream today, we have all of these hybrid capsules that came out. We didn't get any stronger capsules, right? No 3% potency, no 2.75, all 2.5. The big thing we got was capsule exchange for these hybrid capsules, tons of them. We even got triple bull. You can put your dualables around and you can get all three. And, some people think, oh, that's just to make it so hybrid builds have a chance. And I'm sitting here thinking, what builds really rely on hybrid potency? You can get creative with your build, but nothing really relies on it. Some maybe like Braver if you want to go bow and katana, or like Bouncer if you want to go soaring blade and jet boots. But for the majority of them, you can kind of stick in your own potency and you're A-okay. There's nothing significantly better if you switched over to another type. And it got me thinking, what if Summoner is the first class that we get in the game where certain skills scale off of certain potencies? So you could actually see summoners being melee ranged summoner, or you could see a tech ranged summoner, and the skills that they use is going to be different because those skills scale off of specific potency. So you might have like the ultimate summoner be somebody that has mastery 4, that has triple bull, that's using dominus because they can use all of the skills and do a lot of damage. Or you'll have summoners that can maybe specialize in 2 of the 3 potencies, and they will have specific skills and combinations that they will be able to use and do a lot of damage with. And I kind of want that to happen, because that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure. I think that idea would be amazing. But I'm still hoping that Maron is still a thing, because if Maron is a thing, you can bet your butts I will build the...
We can add it in.
Yeah. I'm just gonna build that one-shot KO build with Maron, where it's just like I just throw a bomb and it just blows everything up.
And I'll make sure that they add in a C4 somewhere.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. All right. So, you know, we're running out of time here. Do you have anything else that you wanted to add in?
No, if anybody has a rugged spear, listen, your boy's on ship too.
All right, perfect. All right, so, you know, we're going to conclude the podcast, so I'm going to hand the floor over to Thrift. Floor is yours. You want to do shout-outs, plugs, whatever, it's all yours, man.
Listen, this has been a great week for Block 18. We have been bombarded as the login block, and it has been a miserable time trying to see all of my favorite people in Block 18. I've been rejoiced this week, and I can actually see them for the first time, their faces. So I just want to say shout out to Sega for letting us, all of us on B18, see each other and hang out again. Y'all's are the real MVP. I love my buns, store spawn, store bursts, Shadow Garden. They're Shadow Gato Garden now, and Dots. Y'all's are real MVPs. Love seeing you every day. Oh, I need to shout out Vestige too, my alliance. They got pissed at me last time. And B17 Wales too. Thank you. Y'all's are rocking.
Okay, perfect. And where can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitch 5 days a week, streaming twitch.tv/Thriftshoppin. I also have a YouTube channel, Thriftshoppin there as well. I update videos every single week. And I also have a Twitter where I update some information and, you know, keep everybody in the loop about what's going on with NGS.
All right, perfect. Again, all of Thrift socials will be in the description below. But that is it for me today, and that's the end of the podcast. So thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye. Special thanks to all the members for supporting the channel. It really means a lot to me. Thank you again.
What can I say except you're welcome for the here